This week on Still in Beta, Sceneries, why we love 'em, why we need 'em, and why William sees red every time we mention a certain developer's name. My name is Roman. With me, as always, William and Sean. Hello.
Hello.
Howdy.
Well, you guys, I love sceneries. I guess you love sceneries.
I absolutely love my sceneries. It's kind of an obsession, I would say, because I can't fly anywhere.
Well, you have many obsessions in your simulator.
So jetways and sceneries are very much the top of that list.
Yeah, everything else doesn't matter. Realism and the plane isn't that important as long as if we show jetways. We know that.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't really matter which simulator you're using. Once you start using nice sceneries, may they be freeware, may they be payware, you get addicted to just basically flying to airports where you know the airport looks nice. Other than that, you don't really want to go anywhere anymore. So it's really an important part of every simulator. You pride yourself on your scenery selection, especially in a simulator where there aren't very good default sceneries, P3D. And we want to look at what the challenges are about selecting sceneries depending on your simulator. Maybe even choose a simulator depending on what kind of scenery preferences you have. And what the future slash FS 2020 may hold for us in terms of sceneries, where things might be easier in the future, where they might be cheaper in the future, who knows? Or if things will get worse, who knows? So this is what we're going to talk about in this episode, so stay tuned. And of course, William, you also want to talk about one certain developer, but let's not get into this just yet.
No.
Instead,
Say my rant for the end.
yes. Instead, you also wanted to mention something about Fly Tampa and why you think they still deserve a place on Still in Beta.
I absolutely love Fly Tampa. They have fantastic sceneries. They do all the sort of classics that most flight simmers know the most. For example, St. Martin and the small airports surrounding it. And of course, the legendary Kaitak are all part of the Fly Tampa range, plus a whole load of others. All really good sceneries. Can be a little bit pricey, but I think for the most part, they're generally worth it. But for me, there is one element to Fly Tampa that slightly frustrates me, and that is when you come to want to re download them or reinstall them. The download links that you get if you buy directly from Fly Tampa expire after so long. And every time you want to re download your scenery, or if you have to reinstall all your flight simulator and you have to do everything again, you have to essentially request a new download link from Fly Tampa by contacting the company that does it.
So, like physically talking to people.
Yes, you have to physically send an email to their company that deals with the payments. I forget the name of it. To say basically, I have Athens, Las Vegas, Montreal, whatever. These are my order numbers. Please, can I have new download links? And then potentially somewhere between 24 hours and 48 hours later, you'll get a new download link for them, which I just think is really irritating and really frustrating because it means you have to wait. You can't just get straight in there and do it. All the other developers that I know of, you can log in, download links, and all the rest of it. But that's just one thing that really winds me up about Fly Tampa. And I did actually have to download all my things again recently when I got my new computer. And I sent an email to Fly Tampa, and I actually didn't get a response at all for probably a month or more until I actually sent another message saying, where's my links?"
Well, they just wanted to make sure you really mean it before they dig into it, and then you say, "Oh, sorry, just didn't really need it."
I just think it's a very outdated way of doing things, and I think it's not very user friendly. I mean, how difficult is it to enable you to be able to download something automatically? I just think that every other developer seems to manage it with their various tools and
But
website functions.
but to be
But yeah,
fair, I didn't know you could actually buy anything on their store. I'm looking at it now, and I'm fascinated that you can actually pay for your Fly Tampa sceneries with Bitcoin.
there you go. Actually, their sceneries are more expensive if you actually buy them via SimMarket, which is like the main sort of simulator
Oh, I didn't
go-to
know that.
point.
Okay. But
If you look at the prices, it's actually slightly more expensive. But actually, with SimMarket, you don't have this problem. You
exactly,
can
that's why I
download.
was surprised when he told me about this. I was like, I just click on it and I download it and it's right there. And they also have this updater system where you have
Yes.
an installer, you enter your email, your serial, it downloads it for you, and you're done. That's it. I don't know if this is a thing if you buy it through them as well, but I would think that's probably the solution to all of your problems in the future.
Well, that's it. I recently just bought Kaitak, and I did buy it deliberately through SimMarket because I
That
didn't want to
comes
have this problem
with
in
the
the future.
downloader now.
And I did actually spend probably a couple of extra dollars if I for the essentially the convenience
Hmm.
rather than buying it through Flight Hamper, um, where I would have then potentially had to send off in another few months' time if I decide to go to V5 or whenever I needed to reinstall anything. So yeah, I just think that's Flight Hamper's big issue. If they're going to sell it through their website, then they should at least have a much better support in place, I think.
Hmm. Well, my thing about Flight Tampa is they are fantastic, as you say. But they're no longer the king of sceneries. They used to be that name as soon as it was Flight Tampa. You knew you had the best. But when I look at Boston, for example, I have many issues with their Boston scenery, especially in terms of performance. And I mean, I have like one and a half generation older high end hardware than you do. So everything runs pretty smoothly, except for this one scenery. And it's very hard to optimize because no matter what I do to the settings, it doesn't really change anything. And when I look at other airports, let's say flight beams, sceneries for, let's take SFO, why not? It's a complex scenery. It does definitely hit the performance a little, but never in a noticeable way. And it looks very good. And I think it looks even better than Boston or a lot of other sceneries Flight Tampa does. So I think if you're still in this sort of mindset, Flight Tampa is the best, maybe reconsider because there are other developers out there who may be one or two notches better by now. And Flight Tampa, well, I guess they have some catching up to do.
I agree. I think Flightbeam do some really, really great sceneries. Particularly, you mentioned San Francisco. It's probably one of my favorite sceneries right now. I do
Yes,
like San Francisco.
but San Francisco, just as well as some of the Flight Tampa sceneries, to my there is Dubai, there's Vienna. They're good sceneries, but they're out of date. So you look at the charts
Yes.
and you're like, where's that taxiway? Why is the runway shorter? Why are my gates nowhere to be found? And that is true for like Vienna, that's true for San Francisco as well. And you buy these sceneries at full price and you get an outdated version. With FS Dream Team, for example, I bought Chicago O'Hare, an airport I ended up never using because a lot of it was simply missing. So I was in no mood to buy their version 2 because I was simply angry that they sold this product basically outdated.
I I kind of have to sort of come into the defense a little bit of the developer here because sometimes it's just so difficult for developers to keep up with the development of these major airports. Generally, developers tend to sort of target the major cities, and these major cities are cities which are constantly expanding, and those airports tend to have more rapid expansion and changes to their runways and taxiways and terminals. And I can imagine it's not always easy to constantly change your product, but I think so long as they try to make an update within a reasonable amount of time, fair enough. But I mean, if they're just going to leave a product at full price, but yet the airport was updated 2, 3 years ago and it's still not got an entire runway or an entire terminal, okay, maybe then that's a little bit greedy to not kind of drop the price for an outdated airport.
Exactly. And this is what Imagine Sim did. They offered a scenery. I think it was actually Singapore. It was one of the sceneries I eventually bought when there was a new version. And they made sure to mention this scenery is out of date. Be aware if you buy this. I totally, I'm cool with that. If they say it's no longer up to date, you can buy it. This is the price, but be aware. And this is just something every developer should do if the airport is like heavily outdated, meaning there are. I don't mind if there's a new taxiway that's probably missing, but if there are entire terminals that are missing for years, it might be time to add a note and say, look, yeah. Also, the price should probably go
Or
down.
reduce the price. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned a good point there. I imagine Singapore, I think, is the one you were referring to.
Yes. Beautiful
But
scenery.
they seem to have gone very quiet recently. They released Singapore a couple of years ago, and as far as I know, there hasn't been anything else. And they were one that was always quite well known for doing very good
Well,
scenery.
maybe they are developing for FS 2020. Sean, do you know anything about that?
I don't know. Are they?
Well, you are the one who wants FS 2020, so you must know everything about it by now.
Oh well, I only know what's going on out there. I know Orbix has confirmed they're supporting 2020. That is the only, I believe, official word from any developer that I've heard.
Well, do we even need any more sceneries in FS 2020?
I I I think I don't know how this is going to work because I don't know how 2020 is going to progress. I don't know if there's going to be more added as time goes on, but I can say that airport wise, yes, we're gonna need sceneries. I don't think the Orbic style world sceneries will exist anymore. Clearly, we've all seen what the ground looks like in 2020, except for maybe some regions of the world, because there are some regions where they struggle to get good ground 3D modeling. I don't know if it's got something to do with the satellite imagery or not, but the sceneries for the airports they're definitely gonna be there for airports that are not necessarily detailed by their standard. And I would even venture to say airports that are detailed in 2020 will probably have a replacement that you can buy that is more accurate or up to date or suited to be a little bit better than what they've come out with. So yes, I do believe it's going to be very very necessary.
Oh, well, that's bad news. But as you mentioned Orbex, we have a red alert situation in William's corner. William, let us know what you think about Orbex.
Well, no, I'm going to start with a disclaimer. I do like Orbex. I think that what they do is very good and they produce it very well. They make some very good sceneries. But for me, what really frustrates me, what really angers me, is that it's going back to previous episodes where it's just companies kind of money grabbing, where they insist that you buy all sorts of other stuff to go with it. You can't just go on and go, oh, I really want to get Jackson Hole. I really want to get Burbank. I really want to get Fresno, whatever. You have to buy the various other regions that go with it. And I just don't get it. I just do not see why you should have to do that. It should be my choice. It should be your choice whether you want to expand your global scenery, whether you just want your airport. I'm in a lucky position that I have a good enough computer where if I did want an airport and I had to buy some prerequisite, then I would be able to run it perfectly fine. But there are lots of people out there who don't have that capacity, and actually buying the California area or the Central Rockies or whatever else is going to have a massive impact on your scenery and on your frame rates to the point where you will probably end up having to switch it off because you can't handle it when you're flying in that area. And I just think, why are they doing this? The answer, because they want to get more money off you. Now, I will say that overall, their pricing structure is not crazy. It's not ridiculous like some, but it all adds up. And I know that there's this sort of global package, and a lot of their airports do work off the global package, which, okay, isn't too bad. And they do often have a few sales, which again, I would recommend highly buying anything Orbex related when it's on sale and not when it's at full price. But lots of these airports, lots of the ones out in California, you're required to buy either the north or the south part. Places in the center of America, in like Colorado, you need to buy the Rockies. Places in Australia, you need to buy Australia. I don't want to because I'm not going to fly to that airport enough to justify an extra 20, 30, $40 just to add on some ground textures that I don't care about. And it's a shame because there are actually quite a lot of Orbex airports out there that I would probably buy because their airports are good. I have Sombra, and I have Catalina, and they are both excellent, excellent airports. And there's lots that I would want to buy, but I'm just not going to because I cannot afford to buy all the other crap that goes with it.
Well, you bring up a very good point about you're not buying certain products. I'm looking at the Burbank airport because you mentioned it, and I think it's one of the latest and greatest, personally.
It is.
I'm not
Yeah.
interested in that airport, but yeah, whatever. I go all the way down and it says prerequisite products. You require at least one of the following products, require, remember that word, to use Burbank Airport. Either Global Base Pack, highly recommended if you are a P3D pilot. I have it, I like it. Or North America, Southern California, which I have. I'm not recommending it unless you have a very high end PC. I usually buy at the higher end of PCs, but even I usually switch it off simply because it's too much for the system to handle. Especially if you fly into LAX with LAX scenery and so on, you end up with a slideshow, and I don't want that. So eventually, it just says you have to have one of these in order to buy that. Is that what you understand here?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm understanding is that you have to have one of these other products to make that specific airport work.
Exactly. And that's true for Jackson Hole, which is an airport I actually wanted to buy. And they said I need the Central Rockies or Northern Rockies package or something like that. And I said, I don't want that, so I didn't buy it. But turns out they recently have had a giveaway. Thank you, Orbex, by the way. Very nice sceneries. And one of them was Brisbane Airport.
I have it. Very good.
Yes, me too, thanks to the giveaway. Now, they say you have to own the Australia package, which I do not own. So I thought, maybe this is the ruse here. So you have to buy the Australia package and then you get the airport for free.
Well, you can't own it because it hasn't been released yet.
Exactly. It says it's coming soon. If you click on it, it says 404, not found. If you quote unquote buy it, it works just fine. And it has nothing to do with the global package. There's no either have the global package or the Australia package, because that would explain why it works for me, because I have the global package. But I don't have an Australia package, yet the airport works just fine. So by now, I have this theory in my head, and I asked around a little bit. If these requirements, quote unquote, are really you have to have this for technical reason for this to work requirements, or if they're just they're requirements to make it look a little better.
See, that's the theory I'm going with. The second.
Well, I don't own the global package because I have so far refused to buy it, and I don't own the. Well, obviously, I don't own the Australia package because it's not been released yet, and the airport does work for me. And the airport does work for me. So maybe that's true. And if that's true, then Orbex, you really need to tell us this because you are essentially alienating probably quite a lot of people from purchasing your sceneries, which are very good, because people don't want to buy all the other crap that goes with it. And you are really have a really pretty poor business model if that's the case, because you are essentially losing sales. I would probably buy most of them. I'm a terrible person when it comes to sales and sceneries. I sort of just go for it, but I haven't with Orbex because I don't want all these other ground textures. It just eats up frame rates unnecessarily, and when I'm in the air, I'm not looking out the window. I'm generally take off, I put my autopilot on, and then I'm probably doing other things around the house on the computer, and then I'll come back when I want to land. And at which point I've got my airport, so I don't care. I'm not staring out the window going, oh, look, there's a mountain, there's a river. I'm not interested in all these other things.
Well, you obviously miss out then. You just need Orbex to appreciate these things and don't worry about the cleaning of your house anymore.
Here's the thing I don't get. They don't require any of that for X-Plane. It doesn't say it anywhere. You can buy scenery outright.
X-Plane is a new addition.
Yeah, and so when I saw that, I thought, okay, well, either P3D has some weird way they've done it that the sceneries won't work without the prerequisites at all, which seems to be debunked. And maybe X-Plane's just different. They didn't need to have prerequisites. But I bought Burbank, actually, and I put it in a sim, and it works great. Fantastic scenery. Burbank is kind of a boring airport, but it looks good. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand why they say it for P3D, but not X-Plane, unless they seem to think that maybe they think that you won't appreciate the scenery without the surrounding area. Because you're gonna have this decent land class scenery in an area that's not like that. So I don't know. I don't get the theory behind it.
Well, they're going to be left behind when 2020 comes out because you don't need ground scenery with 2020.
No, well, the thing is yes, one would say they're going to be left behind, but I think the thing we forgot is there's a ton of P3D users out there that probably won't switch to 2020 right away, if at all. Depends. I mean, some people are diehard in their Sims and either can't afford or just don't want to be bothered. Hopefully that changes if it's good, because I think from what I've seen, it changes the world of VFR. So yeah, in that sense, they won't be there for the global stuff, but they'll be there for the airports. And I think now the game's going to have to change a bit. You can't require anything except just give the airports, sell the airports for 2020, which it sounds like they're going to do, unless they do some sort of I don't know, the global thing for the areas of the world that maybe don't look as good. But I don't think I would buy it for that.
I
And
imagine if they think they can make money, they probably will do it.
well, I mean that is the name of the game, I suppose. But yeah, I agree that there should be no prerequisite for anything really. But on the other hand, it's their company; they can run it how they want. And if we don't like it, I guess we just don't have to buy it.
Well, I haven't.
Yeah. So I mean, and you're
I
right.
won't, I won't buy it because I don't want the Central Rockies. I don't want some weird, wonderful place down in Central Africa or wherever the hell it is. I just want an airport. And I mean, okay, the ones that I think on the global package maybe make a little bit more sense. There are quite a few on the global package, but there are lots of ones like Jackson Hole and even Bozeman that I would quite happily love to go to, but they both require things that are not even the global package. So it's just extra. It's just basically saying, here's a product, it's reasonably priced. Oh, by the way, you're going to need to buy this other product, which is slightly less reasonably priced, so you're going to have to pay for it twice.
Yeah, it's a bit like, oh, this is a really nice car, but if you want it, you need to buy the engine here and the hood there, and
Yeah.
the tires and the steering wheel are requirements as well.
It's just another case of a scenery developer, or not just a scenery developer, but a flight sim developer that is essentially trying to exploit the membership.
Well, but they kind of hurt themselves really badly because there, as you say, there is quite a lot of scenery I wouldn't mind buying. I didn't because of the requirements. So they're losing money by doing this. And I think with X-Plane they may have realized that, or the sheer size of these X-Plane scenery package, texture packages are just reason enough for them to say, okay, we cannot require that from people, that they don't do it anymore. I don't know if they realize the errors in their ways and they don't want to fix it for P3D anymore, or why. But I think with X-Plane, they're going the right way. With FS 2020, they will probably not have much of a market for these countryside textures and things because they come straight from Bing Maps. Yay. But the airports, yeah, I mean, why not? And maybe they can fix themselves there. But as you say, it is really weird that you need some package for another package to work.
And I mean, we can't be the only people that find this frustrating.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, we know quite a lot of people who find this a little bit weird.
Anyway, that's my rant over with.
Oh, that
Feel a
was
lot better.
very restrained, given that you basically spend 3 hours every day telling us how annoyed
Well,
you
I'm
are with
actually
that scenery problem.
I've just remembered one other one other thing that really frustrates me about Orvex is the amount of money they're charging for an airport that doesn't even exist anymore.
Well, so does Flight Tampa.
Yeah, but there's a very big difference between Kaitak, which is the most legendary airport in the world for that approach, and Migsfield in Chicago. Yes, I know it was the sort of original Flight Sim 2000 and 2002 starting point.
Not even
I mean,
that,
who
it was
really
the
actually bothered?
original starting point. That was.
But
This is
I
the
just don't.
father of all flight simulator airports. All
But
of
it's
us
not
old
been there.
people,
It's
we took off from this place
destroyed years ago.
in 3
And they're,
pixel planes.
and
Giant
they're
pixels.
charging $35 Australian for it.
Donkeys.
Madness. I know.
Well, I
Anyway,
mean, it's probably more
Somebody
expensive
restrain
than
me.
one of these simulators back in the day.
I know. Okay.
Look,
Oh, and of course you need a prerequisite for it. Don't forget that bit.
oh, which one is it? The global package?
It is the global package.
Yeah. So I don't
Um,
require one, but it also exists for X-Plane. So if you're on X-Plane, you just pay 26 and 21 Australian donkeys at the moment because there's apparently a sale. Another
It's
pro tip.
kangaroo bucks.
Kangaroo box, yeah. Big tip, Orbex usually has sales going on, especially around like New Year and Easter and half year and summer and winter and spring and pretty much all the time there's a sale. So save a bit of money, always wait a bit, unless you're really, really keen on having mixed field. Then just go for it, it's beautiful. According to the screenshots, I don't own it.
Anyway, sorry, my rant's over now for Orbex.
Are you sure?
Yes, I feel a lot better.
Good. Let's talk about simulators themselves then, because I have something to say about P3D versus X-Plane here. And I know, I hate tribalism, so I'm not a tribal person on this one. I use both simulators pretty much 50-50. But as far as scenery is concerned, I think X-Plane got it nailed by simply giving us a directory that's called custom sceneries, I think. You have all your sceneries in there, or at least all the links to it, but I'd keep everything in there. And when you delete your system, for whatever reason you want to have a new computer or something, you just zip that up, move it to your new installation, and it works. Out of the box. No problem. I even go as far as structuring that folder in a certain way to make sure it's really bulletproof with all the layering going on. But that's just me. You don't have to do this. And I carry my scenery folder for years already, and I had it in at least 3 different installations, and I just recently reinstalled that computer because it was messy all over the place. I needed to make it a bit more efficient and workable for other things as well. It worked like a dream. The only thing that I messed up was basically using the wrong drive. So X-Plane off a regular mechanical hard drive, very bad idea. It does not really work anymore. But once it was on an SSD again, it worked just like, no problem. In the P3D world, things are a little different. I'm sure there is a way to make all or some of your scenery work that way, but it would feel very unclean because, as we all know, there is like a registry in Windows and things need to be there. There needs to be a record of this thing existing because maybe it doesn't work otherwise. Then there's another folder where you have your add-on file in, but that doesn't contain any data. It just has like a text file telling the simulator where to find the rest. So it's a bit messy. It's much easier to just say, okay, if I reinstall P3D, I reinstall my scenery. But if you have a lot of scenery, let's say you spent a small fortune, don't remind me about that, on your scenery, you have weeks worth of work ahead of you. I mean, Orbex fixed it really well. You have one system, you just say, download all of it, and you go to sleep. Next day, it is all done, it works. But then you have to download, maybe from FS Dream Team, you own 6 airports. So you download them every time you install them. First, you run the installer. Then the installer runs the updater every single time, which is annoying enough. Then you have to start the simulator, go into their horrible, horrible add-on manager, also known as a DRM manager, really. Enter the serial number, wait for a good 10 seconds to be activated, then you're out of this thing, then you need to restart it again, go down the list and find the next airport, click on that, enter your serial, wait another 10 seconds. So it's just so involved, it's hands-on. You constantly need to sort of click things and enter things and wait for things. It's not this thing where you just say, okay, do this, I'm gone for the day, and when I come back, you're done. This is for me. For me, that's what a computer is all about. It's supposed to compute without me in the way. But with P3D, it feels always like you have all these little snippets, which take quite a bit of time, but never long enough that you have time to cook some fresh tea. So you're constantly waiting and looking at the screen. And so I slowly but steadily rebuilt this P3D world and add scenery after scenery, and then eventually you forget that you have forgotten about one scenery, you fly to the place and you, oh god, I forgot to install, I don't know, Narita Airport or something, which is nice scenery, by the way. So this is what really frustrates me about this really like FS 2000 scenery manager, because this is still what we have. Same for the layering. If the layering tool in P3D is still terrible, at least in V4, I don't know about V5, don't have it. You basically just can select one airport and then say move up or move down. Guys, this is 2020. Just multiple selections, drag up, drag down. What's so hard about that? Really? It cannot be that difficult. So at least for P3D, I wish that they will fix that. For FS 2020, I'm pretty sure we will see this like as at least have the option of saying, well, everything comes from their store, so it's a one-click installation, hopefully without worrying too much about it. But in P3D, FSX, or older, it was always such a nightmare to do. So this is my first reason I think X-Plane's scenery system is better. I'm not saying the sceneries are better, I just say the system of handling them is better. The second reason is the world is so much bigger if you do not have a giant budget. I spent thousands of dollars, not kidding, on P3D sceneries.
I don't even want to add up how much I've spent, and I've only had it since last year.
Don't do it. You will stop liking the hobby once you do add up. It's a bad idea. Never add up how much you spent on this because you will get a heart attack.
I did. I actually did.
Yeah, health deteriorates rather quickly once you do. I was not even a detailed summary of all the expenses I made. I just said, okay, I have these many sceneries. This is my average price. And I said, holy mother.
Oh, yeah.
And after that, I was a lot more considerate about any kind of scenery I buy. And that's why I do not own Mixfield. Sorry, Orbex.
Well, it doesn't exist. That's probably a good reason as well.
No. I totally love it for its nostalgia.
Background, isn't it?
If it was like 75% off, I would probably buy it.
Well, I think it is currently on sale, but...
Yeah, but not 75%.
No, not quite.
You see. So, in X-Plane, on the other hand, I usually, once I woke up and I did some basic work and maybe had breakfast, if I had a breakfast, I go onto the X-Plane.org and see, oh, what scenery can we add today? And I'm not talking about, that usual notification, oh, this developer put something on sale on SimMarket. No. I'm talking about freeware. Thanks to X-Plane's sort of Lego build kit called the World Editor. Yeah, I think it's a World Editor, which is really easy to use, by the way. So if you are interested in making sceneries, look at World Editor for X-Plane. It's not difficult to use. You get the hang of it. There are good tutorials out there. And a lot of people, they just make sceneries with the basic utilities, maybe throw in some libraries that are already there. They exist, they are free. And then they put it up on the xplane.org website. And in many cases, the freeware airports available for X-Plane are more than sufficient to make it look really good. And in some cases, I prefer the free version over the paid version. A recent example of this is Anchorage Airport. We recently got blessed with a freeware airport there that is at least 2 notches better than the Arrows of payware. So I ditched the payware and said, nope, this is my new Anchorage Airport. It's fantastic. And we see this more and more in the X-Plane world, that there is a bit of payware that's usually very good. For example, what comes to mind is like the latest Tampa scenery. Sean, you love that one as well.
Oh, yeah.
Things like that are really, really detailed, where a lot of work goes in. But sometimes the same level is available on smaller airports, or it really gets very close in the freeware market. And I think this made X-Plane so much more of a first choice for me to just say, oh, I don't really want to go from SFO to Amsterdam again. I want to go from, I don't know, South Africa, let's say Cape Town, because the default scenery in X-Plane is actually quite good there, to Bahrain. Why not? And yeah, I just do that flight. I have no chance of doing this flight really in P3D. And even if there was scenery, I would probably not buy it because part of it is already free on X-Plane. Or let's just take 2 free sceneries anyway. Let's say Muscat, beautiful airport, freeware scenery, default scenery in South Africa, a free flight, wonderful day.
Your Muscat scenery is excellent. I remember you showing me the other week, and it really did look spectacular and very accurate. I mean, I've been to Muscat.
That's not even the exception. That's quite a regular sort of, well, not quite the regular quality level, but there are lots of airports that get close to that kind of level of detail. And I think this was the right move by Explain to just give people the tools to make sceneries easily. I hope that we will see something like this for FS 2020, if not from the beginning, at least later on. Some editor that makes it really easy for sceneries to be added, maybe even to some global website, or so basically just as soon as people publish them, they are available. That would be great. I really hope that we see something like this in other simulators.
Well, we don't have very long to wait now, do we? It's less than a month to go before
Oh, for the public beta, you mean?
No, for the full release is the 18th of August.
Oh, I thought that was when the public beta started, the paid public beta.
Oh, of course, yes. Yeah, sorry. I forget.
Boy.
They will be releasing the program still in beta.
Are you going to buy the DVDs?
No.
Oh.
I'm probably not going to buy it at all. I will let everybody else try it first and then
You mean
make
Sean?
my judgment
Yeah,
in December.
way to jump on that grenade.
I'm very much. I like to let everyone else do the testing, and I will make an informed decision several months later as to whether or not I think it's worth it.
May I remind you that you wanted to use FS9 for another few months before really committing to P3D, and the night you got P3D, you never ever turned back?
No, this is very true. This is very true. But I loved my FS9, and I was loyal to it for probably 5 or 6 years longer than I probably should have done. But that was based mainly on the fact that I didn't have a good enough computer. And
Well, you thought it was the best simulator in the world.
I think it is. I think of all the simulators that there have ever been, I think Flight Simulator 9 is one of the best. It was the most stable simulator that has ever been released. And it was the testament to that is the fact that there are still some scenery developers making for it now, and it kind of carried on for many years because FSX was such a disaster when it first came out.
Well, it was a disaster when it died.
Yeah, it
I mean,
never
it's
got
still a
better.
disaster now, but it was slightly better. There was some improvements. I think the Steam edition improved something. But yeah, no, I think Flight Simulator 9 was a really stable, excellent product. It might not have been the best to look at, but there was plenty of things out there to make it look good. Yeah, it served me very well, and I don't regret any of my time on it.
Well, that's a good simulator then. So what else do we have on our list? Don't drop the word orb. Oh, I did it.
It's okay. I've just found another scenery that I would have quite liked. I've been flicking through their website since the discussion, and of course it needs a prerequisite, so it's another one that I probably won't be buying. I'd like to throw in a couple of, again, they're not sponsored here at all, but there's a couple of scenery developers that I've been using quite recently for flights. Sorry, I'm talking about Flight Simulator in my mind now, but for P3D, and I think they deserve a bit of a special mention because I think they have very good products and they're reasonably priced, and as always, they're very often on sale, and they're good on your frame rates. And that's MK Studios. They do some spectacular airports.
I think they're going to be part of 2020 now that I think of it. They
You're
actually
right. Yes, they are.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. And they do some really nice sceneries. So I have quite a few of MK Studios sceneries. There's more that I want, but again, I'm limited by the fact that I don't have any money at the moment. But I have a couple of their airports. I've got most of their Canary Islands, and I also have their Lisbon, and they're all excellent, really good, really detailed, and good on frames. And the prices are really good too. And they've got a couple of other ones that are really nice, Keflavik and Dublin.
I think I've one they gave away recently during the lockdown, and I was very surprised how good it was and how smooth it ran. I think the screenshots don't do it justice, actually.
No, annoyingly, the one that they actually gave away on sale was one that I'd only just bought about maybe 3 or 4 weeks earlier.
That
But
hurts.
never mind. I still like it, and I don't regret it. But the other one that I think are really good is Just Sim. They do quite a lot of European airports. They keep them updated. They update them quite regularly. They often do charge for the updates when they get too much. But they have lots of great little airports, big airports across Europe, places in Turkey, Germany, or things like that. Very reasonably priced. Generally always on sale, so watch out for those. Yeah, and I think they're really good. I have again 4 or 5 of their airports. Very good. I really do think they make very good scenery. So that's my little top tips there.
Well, since we are talking about payware sceneries for P3D here, why not throw in some for X-Plane here? Again, not sponsored, but I just recently bought most of the vertical sims sceneries that are on sale, like Norfolk and Baltimore and all of these. And I think they're lovely little sceneries of airport you barely ever think about going to. And they are on sale at the moment. So if you're looking for some airports that are a little bit off the beaten track, X-Plane compatible, looking good, and are on the cheap, that's a great option for you right there. Other than that, in general, always look out for sales because sceneries are, in general, on sale quite frequently. The exception is Fly Tampa, but even they sometimes announce that they give you a few % off. And so slowly but steadily, that's how I built up my Fly Tampa portfolio.
Yes, I think they tend to be more just sort of Christmas, New Year time that they do a sale.
Yeah, and then they maybe give you 1, 2 at best.
I think they actually did a one. Not there was a point during the sort of lockdown where there was loads of almost every day there was another free scenery. It was a very exciting time to be alive.
Exciting!
But actually, Flight Tampa didn't do that. But they did eventually throw a couple of sceneries out on sale.
Yeah, I was very close to buying Las Vegas, but I just couldn't bring myself to it. Do you like it?
I do like it. It's very good, but I will say it's very much like Boston in that it does hit your performance a little bit. But again, for me, it's not too noticeable, but I think for other people it might be. But no, it's very up to date because Vegas has undergone quite a significant change to its terminal layout in the last few years. So it was nice to have a fully up to date Vegas airport.
Yeah, that is true. Speaking of Vegas, Vegas is one of these places I actually do have scenery for in P3D from FS Dream Team. But it has the nasty habit of being completely submerged below the ground. I don't know what's going on here. I think it's a problem that it's not compatible with orebags. I even tried some patches, but it never really worked. Sometimes I got it to work and then I flew in and it was just back to this bad state where you couldn't land at the airport anymore. So I was never very lucky with Las Vegas in the first place. I'm sure Fly Tampa did a better job, but by now I completely lost interest in Las Vegas anyway. I have so many other airports to go to. It's too late.
So interesting you should talk about, bring up the FS Dream Team Vegas. As far as I know, that has not been updated for quite some time, for many years. So it's actually out of date.
It's one of their sceneries that's completely out of date and they just happily sell you.
For the same original price, I imagine.
Of course, and it doesn't even work. I mean, I had it for so many years, I couldn't fly there once without frustration. And I mean, you just give up at some point.
It's annoying actually because FS Dream Team, although Fly Tampa are very well known, but FS Dream Team is probably the other one that's been around for quite a long time and is very well known, and they are well known for Vegas. So potentially people are going to be sucked into this sort of trap of buying their Vegas when actually the Fly Tampa one is better and more modern.
Now, to be fair, it only quote unquote costs $15, but I mean it's an outdated airport that never worked for me. Again, it might be fixable, but I never got to this point. And I think, it just has no more reason to exist, or at least they could update it or something like that.
Well, it's been around for a long time because I had it for Flight Sim 9.
Yeah, you can still buy that, by the way.
I think so, yeah.
Interestingly, it used to be $24 if the price on the description is anything to go by, but they probably lowered the price on the store. For me, this scenery, as well as the O'Hare scenery, was the main trigger to say, I'm not going to buy FS Dream Team anymore. Because their scenery is a bit of a hit and miss. Sometimes it's very good. Sometimes it's more like, meh. And I usually can't fly there at night without getting seizures, because for some reason my setup shows me a weird sort of flickering pattern on the runway and taxiway.
I experienced that actually in Flight Sim 9. Interestingly enough, at the moment, I haven't experienced it from what I can remember in the ones I have for P3D, but actually the only one I generally use right now for P3D is the LAX scenery, because it's the only one that actually has working so jetways that I own.
Oh, geez.
So it's the only one I tend to go to.
Oh, God.
But actually, another one that they have that's very outdated is their Fort Lauderdale airport. I mean, that airport has had an entire runway built. It's had 2 terminals demolished and rebuilt and remodeled, and yet they're still selling it quite happily here.
Since you mentioned LAX, even LAX is out of date. Not by much, but when I look at
No.
the X-Plane scenery that I have, the X-Plane scenery has a completely a part is completely missing in FS Dream Team. I was like, oh, I didn't never know that was there. And then I remembered I've actually seen it when I was at LAX. And I was like, yeah, that's really missing in there. I just didn't notice. It's not too bad, so I wouldn't diss them for that. But yeah, they still have this like Los Angeles International Airport and then released below it. Yeah, it has been released for the last 15 years now, so it's probably
It was one of
time.
their early ones. It was actually one of their early ones when they first, back in the FS9 days. Because again, I had it for Flight Sim 9. I would say probably FS Dream Team right now are kind of on that same shelf as Fly Tampa. They tend to have quite a significant impact on your frame rates. I mean, I actually have a very noticeable
Oh yes, they do.
impact on my LAX scenery, especially if I have my AI traffic on. I mean, great scenery. The LA is great. I love it, but yeah, it does. I do get a bit of a hit, and then I fly the PMDG NGXU, and that coupled with FS Dream Team and the AI traffic, I'm like down to 15 frames a minute, a second.
A minute.
A minute.
Now that is depressing.
15 frames a second, I mean.
Well, and for reference, you have I think a 9900K i9 CPU and a 2080 Ti, or just a regular 2080. Doesn't really matter. It's a
No,
machine.
that one's mine. I have the 9900 and the 2080. I think, William, don't you have the 9700?
I really don't know. I think that
You have
sounds about right. I
something
mean,
about there, but you have a 2080, so you're definitely up there in the high-end clouds.
Wait, William has a 2080? I didn't
Yes,
know
he
that.
does.
yeah.
So
Wow.
I went all out, you know.
Well, you shouldn't have an issue with frames at all. I don't get it.
well, that's FS Dream Team for you. It really drags down your frame rate, no matter what kind of hardware you have, no matter what settings you have. That's just the general problem with scenery overall. You have quite an impact on your frames in many sceneries. But that's not necessarily always the case. When I look at X-Plane's LAX scenery, I have barely a frame rate hit at all, and it's much better, much more complex than a lot of other sceneries out there that actually do give me an impact. I don't know what kind of magic they're working, but they just do it better.
No, it's weird. It's weird. But anyway, I'd like to share a quick.
Williams top tip.
For those of you that do want to take full advantage of the sales, and as we keep saying, it's very recommended. Those of you who use SimMarket, and again, not sponsored at all here, but I do recommend their site. It's very good. You can actually filter their sales by going onto their homepage, and there's this little sales box halfway down the homepage. You click on that, you can then filter the various sims that you may have, and also once you're in your specific sim, you can then specify whether you're looking for utilities, sceneries, or aircraft and things, so you can keep up to date with everything that's on sale.
Yeah, but apparently that's not always quite as accurate as you would like to, because one of our pilots just recently bought Bahrain for P3D. At least it was listed on the P3D, he said, and he figured out later there was actually an X-Plane scenery. So always do a bit of rating if it's really the right thing before you buy anything.
I imagine he probably just didn't filter properly.
I don't know what he did, but he just ended up with a scenery. That's very nice, I have it, but he thought it was for a different
RTFI.
simulator.
RTFI, people.
Yeah, definitely. Always read before you buy. The sale is usually on for a day or two, or maybe even some weeks. So it's not like you have 30 seconds to buy it. And if anybody gives you that kind of pressure, walk away. It's a scam.
So interestingly enough, right now, for those of you on P3D version 4, there's 120 scenery products on sale.
Oh wow.
Wow. Again, do your due diligence, make sure you actually like it, and that the scenery project is worth its money. I mean, look at the screenshots; they often give you some idea of what you can expect, and some sceneries are just better done than others. Be aware of that.
Definitely. Definitely. There are definitely some here on the first opening page I'm looking at, which are very suspect.
Well, to be honest, there were some free sceneries during this whole exciting lockdown period you liked so much.
Yes, interesting. One of them was a Just Sim, and it was Moscow, and it's excellent. And it was one I actually wanted to buy, but I held off, and then it came out for free, and I thought, no, I'm getting it, and it was really good.
Yeah, I got that one as well, but there were other sceneries I said, they may be free, but meh. No, not gonna install that.
Yes.
Because it was really,
Interestingly,
it looked like FS 2002 has been converted to P3D.
some of them maybe are. One of the ones that was free was actually Roatan. I think it was Latin VFR, and that's actually really nice little scenery.
Yeah, it's a nice little scenery. It's not like up there with the high end
No.
of the scenery development, but it's nice.
For free, you can't complain.
Yeah, you do like the cruise ships, I'm sure.
Of course, I love the cruise ships.
Does it have so jetways?
Well, no, because the airport doesn't have jetways at all, so that's also fine. If the airport doesn't have jetways, that's also
Oh
fine.
dear.
So, what about so jetways in general? I mean, why is it that some airports, modern airports, do not have so jetways? Do you have any insight?
Well, I think it's just, again, scenery developers haven't really updated their product. I mean, so jetways have only been around for probably the last maybe 2 or 3 years, and any sceneries that came out before that haven't been updated, or if they have been updated, maybe that developer hasn't bothered to do it. I know Aerosoft, actually, a bit of a grind my gear situation. Aerosoft have quite a lot of excellent sceneries, but I don't want to buy them because they don't have so jetways. I know that's just me. That's a bit petty, but that's just how I am. I like the realism for the jetways, and I don't like the Control J FSX P3D type thing. But Aerosoft have quite a lot of sceneries, and most of them are either new or have been updated, and they don't have so jetways. And I just think, why? It's like the most up to date thing in sceneries. So do it.
Is it?
Well, certainly one of the most up to date things in sceneries.
Well, I mean, it's a tube that extends and mates with your aircraft.
Yes, but it's better than the sort of weird and wonderful animations of the Control J jetways, where they end up sort of halfway through the floor or
Shouldn't
totally
you be
up in the
much
air.
more focused on starting your plane, programming your
No.
FMC, and
No,
getting your
I
flight planning
am.
right, and looking at charts? Who cares what's
No.
happening there?
Because I like it. It's part of the immersion. It's part of the sort of realism of it all coming together and having that full turnaround experience.
Okay, well, first off, we all know that Roman does not like immersion. He hates it. We won't have it. And you pay for the student version, as you are a student for P3D, which means you're not allowed to have fun.
No, that's true.
You're not allowed to have fun. If you're having fun while playing P3D, you're using it for the wrong reason.
You're not allowed to have fun with the Pro Edition either because you're a professional.
Exactly. No fun in flight simming.
It's not about fun. It's about immersion and realism, and that's all part of it. Part of the training.
Well, we leave that topic to the lawyers, and well, maybe we should wrap it up at this point. So, what is our bottom line here? There's not that much beta going on in scenery, maybe? Just some
I think
annoyances?
generally it's mostly release done. I think I think the only bad thing about scenery is you don't necessarily get updates like you do aircraft. I think once they're done, and if things change, well, you look for the next one. But generally, no, not in beta. I think they just work.
Well,
That
I
is
think that pretty much covers it for scenery this week. The top tip: watch out for sales.
Absolutely.
So, this week's covered. What are we going to talk about next week?
Next week, it is VATSIM and general tips for online flying and multiplayer. I suppose this will be looking at what the future holds with FS 2020.
Well, that sounds like an exciting topic. So, don't forget to subscribe. Like, if you did listen to the end, you probably liked it, unless you're a hate listener. And yeah, see you next week, and goodbye.
See you next time.